Good evening. For the second consecutive week, Gillette brings you a World's Championship. Tonight it's the big one, a 15-round bout for the World Heavyweight Championship between champion Floyd Patterson of New York and across the ring, challenger Brian London of Blackpool, England. Gillette telecasts the major boxing event of the week each Friday night, and such outstanding attractions as tomorrow's Kentucky Derby, the All-Star Baseball Game, World Series, World's Invitational Match Game Bowling Championships, Blue and Gray Football Game, and the Rose Bowl Game. This is Gillette's word of thanks to the millions of men and women who make these telecasts possible. They are lacing on the gloves of Brian London in the left corner. He's sitting there very calm. He came in and bowed to four corners of the place here. He is 24 years old. He's had 26 fights, and he's lost only 4, and he scored 19 knockouts. His last bout was January the 12th. Here is Sammy Taub.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sam Taub. On behalf of the people of Indianapolis and the state of Indiana, let me welcome you to the first title match of any kind ever staged in this state. Tonight's heavyweight championship bout is being promoted by Al Farb. Advising Mr. Farb is Arch Heinman, Executive Secretary of the National Boxing Association. It is being held at the Indiana Coliseum, Melrose General Manager. This contest, incidentally, is under the supervision of the Indiana Athletic Commission, Stanley D. Goldberg, Chairman. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you 3 great figures, 2 of the past and 1 of today. First of all, the man of steel from Gary, Indiana, the former middleweight champion of the world, Tony Zale. Presenting you this time, a Britisher who captured the hearts of all America when he came here and fought 15 brilliant rounds with Joe Louis, and then went on to fight 3 more battles. From Tony Pandy, South Wales, Tommy Farr. Last, but most important because he's still around today. Ladies and gentlemen, you've read reams about him. He's accomplished great deeds. The undefeated European heavyweight champion of Sweden, who hopes to meet Patterson in the Yankee Stadium on June 25th, Ingemar Johansson. Ladies and gentlemen, the main event of the evening coming up, a 15-round bout for the world's heavyweight title. But before we present the principals in the stellar attraction, let us introduce the officials. The club physician, Dr. Roy Storms. Timekeeper, Bill Sweet. Knockdown timekeeper, Lou Thomas. The judges are Moan Baumgartner of Fort Wayne and Kelsey McClure of Indianapolis. Your referee from the main event is a well-known Chicago arbiter, former fighter, well known throughout the country. He's here with us tonight, Frank Sikora. Okay, here we go. From Blackpool, England, weighing 208 pounds, the challenger for the heavyweight crown, Brian London. From Rockville Center, New York, the heavyweight champion of the world, Floyd Patterson. London, 208 pounds. Patterson, 182 1/4 pounds. And now for the official instructions. London.
London, who's your chief second?
I am.
Patterson, who's your chief second? All right, now you boys received your instructions from the Indiana State Athletic Commission. I'm in here to enforce them. I want a clean break at all times. I want no rapid punching or kidney punches. Be careful of your low blows, they may cost you a round. In case of a knockdown, I want you to go to your first corner and stay there till I tell you to come out fighting. This being a championship contest, the 8 count will be waived. Shake hands now, come out fighting, and good luck to both of you.
Patterson 182 1/4, London 208, differential in weight. Patterson threw a vicious right hand. Evidently, if he can get this fight over in the first round, he'll do it. He is really out to stop it fast. Patterson seconds yelled a head down. He was standing upright. And they wanted him to go into a crouch. That's Patterson in white, Brian London in black. London's left cheek bone is swelling. One minute to the end of the first round. London is holding his gloves high, protecting his chin, and he's giving Patterson open shots at the body. Ten seconds to the end of round one. That's the end of round one. Every now and then, Floyd Patterson lashes out in real hard punching combinations. He's not toying with his man by any means. He seems grimly determined to knock him out. Patterson is sharp and dealing out an awful lot of punishment. There's 7 or 8 straight punches. Those shots to the body and shots to the head were 6, 7 in a row, almost like a tattoo of blows. Patterson is usually a slow starter, a phlegmatic type, but tonight he's full of fire. He's really bombing away. He shrugged his shoulders. Shrugged his shoulders as to say, so what? I missed already. A very comic little thing. That's a typical New York gesture. London is now opening up. At least that was one of the hardest punches he threw since the fight started. Don't forget, tomorrow afternoon, the Kentucky Derby over another network in the United States and the CBC in Canada. Well, let's take a look at Brian London. He's the former British and Empire heavyweight champion. It's a title once held by his father, Jack London, who won it at the age of 31 while a sergeant in the Royal Air Force. He defeated Freddie Mills. This boy was born in Blackpool, England, 5 days after Max Baer stopped Primo Carnera for the same title that he hopes to win tonight. His father was a boxer. He and his brother also boxed as an amateur. He won 85 out of 87. 5 years ago at the British Empire Games at Vancouver, he won the heavyweight title. In March of '55, he turned professional. He won 11 of his first dozen bouts by knockouts, and then in his 13th bout he faced Henry Cooper, who stopped him in one. It was the same Cooper who beat him in January to win the British heavyweight title, a crown that London had won from Joe Erskine by a knockout last June. He's been married 6 months, meeting his wife while also serving in the Royal Air Force. In 4 years as a pro, he earned $56,000, which is more than his father earned in 19 years in the ring. His correct name is Brian Harper. He has a 22-4 record, scored 19 knockouts. Patterson has a 34-1 record, scored 24 knockouts. This is the 5-point must system if you're scoring in the state of Indiana, or anywhere else for that matter. That's the official count here. If you call a round even, each boy gets 5 points. Usually it's 5-4, or if Patterson wins by a wide margin, it's 5-3. dropped a right hand in on Patterson's chin there, and the crowd went, oh. 1 minute to go to the end of round 3. Patterson's seconds are yelling at him, head down. London in white is doing more pawing than punching. His blows don't have the snap or the speed of Patterson's. Ten seconds to the end of round 3. That's the end of round 3. Well, the crowd here, and it's a very fine crowd and a beautiful night. This weather was so good here today in the 80s, they could have held this fight outdoors. They might have held it outdoors had they known it was going to be that good. But in the press headquarters at the Harrison, all the boxing writers, without exception, including all the British writers, picked Patterson to win by a knockout with 2 exceptions. Both gloves up against his face, his elbows out at an angle. It's his familiar crouch. He leads with either fist from that position. There's the very nonchalant champion going to his corner. He's the youngest ever to win the championship. He beat Archie Moore in Chicago in November of '56 in 5 rounds. You saw that on the Gillette cavalcade of sports. He won the title at 21. He topped Joe Louis by 2 years. Since becoming the heavyweight king, he's defended his crown 3 times, KOing Tommy Jackson, Pete Rademacher, and Roy Harris. While he's been the youngest ever to win the title, he's been topped by 2 other boxers who have won it in less bouts. Jim Jeffries in his 13th, Jess Willard, who's watching tonight in California, in his 31st, and that was 1 less than Patterson. He was born in Waco, North Carolina. He has grown, and we've watched him from a 147-pound sub-novice boxer in the 1950 Daily News Golden Gloves to become the champion of the world. Along the way, he won 9 amateur titles, including the 1952 Olympics. He's one of 12 children, 10 boys and 2 girls. In previous showings on the Gillette Cavalcade of Sports, he defeated Willie Troy, Joe Gannon, Jimmy Slade, Hurricane Jackson, and Archie Moore. He lost only 1 professional fight, and that was to Joey Maxson. A slight cut on the cheekbone, right cheekbone of Brian London. He's in the black trunks, the champion in white. Your Cavalcade of Sports coming your way from Indianapolis. Those tremendous body blows have slowed down London. Have taken all the sting out of his jab. He's just pawing with a very slow motion leads, and that accentuates the speed of the champion. The seconds yelled to Patterson, keep your hands up getting out, meaning protect yourself as you back away from that clinch. One minute. Every now and then Patterson misses by a wide margin, but he scores 75% of his shots at that big target. 10 seconds. That's the end of the round. I thought he was going to... got caught in the middle. If you notice, Patterson changed his strategy in this round. He backed away, and then suddenly stepped in because he's a good 6 feet away from his man. He's going to come slashing in and slashing out. He kept up a steady pressure in the earlier rounds. It's a 15-rounder, and of course this is round 6. And that's the champion. This is been called by him and his manager a tune-up fight, but the only difference between this and a ordinary tune-up fight is that if accidentally the challenger wins, he gets the title. Title is at stake here, all the way. Seconds are yelling instructions at Patterson in the body. Also, London has been going into more of a crouch this round than in previous rounds. He has been standing straight up and has been open for body shots. Now he's been leaning forward to protect the body and at the same time protect his head with his gloves. Well, next Friday, your Gillette Cavalcade of Sports presents Gaspar Ortega and Rudel Stitch. Patterson leaned over to pick up his mouthpiece. That fight will be under the promotion of Norman Rothschild, and it will be at Syracuse. Ortega, the lucky Indian from Mexico, is ranked 5th, defeated Stitch by a margin of 1 point in a thriller last February. He has a 48-14 record with 20 knockouts. Stitch lost a split decision to Ortega, but he knocked out Guy Sumlin and defeated Jimmy Beecham in 10 at Miami Beach, has a 19-5 record with 10 KOs. Next Friday from Syracuse, Gaspar Ortega, the Indian versus Rudel Stitch, the Louisville Church Elder, on your Gillette Cavalcade of Sports. And tomorrow afternoon, the Kentucky Derby over another network in the United States and the CBC in Canada, also the Gillette Cavalcade of Sports. At the end of the round, Patterson leaned through the ropes and picked up his mouth guard and carried it over to the corner. That was the round in which Patterson came out and circled his man instead of bombing him immediately, and that was the round in which London went more into a crouch to protect his body and at the same time holding his gloves up to protect his head. By leaning forward in a crouch, his elbows come down and protect his ribs because they're badly battered and bruised. This is round 7 of a 15-rounder with the world title at stake. The champion is Floyd Patterson in white. The challenger, Brian London. Only 3 Britishers have come over here to fight for the title. And many foreign boxers have had chances at the world heavyweight crown. Carpentier, Firpo, Heaney, Farr, Cockell, and Godoy, but only 4 have been successful in winning it. Bob Fitzsimmons, Tommy Burns, Max Schmeling, and Primo Carnera. The seconds again yell, hook faster, head down. One minute to the end of round 7. 10 seconds to the end of round 7 of a 15-rounder. That's the end of round 7. Both men now have a tendency to go into a crouch together. If you'll notice that when Patterson goes into his crouch, London goes into his. The crowd gave a little flurry of applause there. One of the infrequent times that London led. He led with a right uppercut as they moved into a clinch, and that was the occasion of the applause. London's knees are rubbery. He's taken an awful lot of punishment. He's slowed down now to where he seems to be unable to avoid any of the leads. Well, a lot of people didn't expect them to be around this long. Well, we're certainly seeing the cities where champions are crowned. Tonight we're here in Indianapolis, the home of the world-famous 500-mile Speedway Classic, and tomorrow, Louisville, Kentucky, for the Kentucky Derby. Yes, tomorrow your Gillette Cavalcade of Sports travels to Louisville, where the cream of this year's 3-year-olds will be going to the post for the 85th Kentucky Derby. Be sure to tune in. All the action will be brought to you by Gillette over another television network in the United States and over the CBS TV network in Canada. Check your local listings for time and station. That's Customato and Florio. No cuts. Of course, if Patterson did suffer an accidental butt or had a cut and the fight was stopped on a TKO, the title would go to England. London's jabs are very light, just delicate little flicks. Terrific right to the stomach hurt London. You could see him gasp and pull back. He's a very game Englishman. He's taking a bad battering in there. Ten seconds. That's the end of round 9. Hello there, everybody. It's interesting to note the reaction of the crowd here. They're having a wonderful time. It's a noisy crowd. They're applauding. They're enjoying it. And, of course, the curiosity factor of seeing the champion of the world in action has interested them. A noisy crowd, a happy crowd, a sellout crowd, nearly. Boing. They're doing an awful lot of signaling and talking to each other there. Patterson got off 5 or 6 jabs and then a terrific right and nodded as if to say, how did you like that one? Right hurt London. It shook him up. Those are real thumping shots. London has really been hurt. That's the first time I've seen him show any reaction to that punishment. London is hurt, so we may, if he lasts this round out, we'll have a camera on him in the corner and see how his seconds are working over him. He slowed down. He started off slow, and he's real slow now. London spoke to Floyd in the clinch there. knockdown of the fight right above us here. The bell rang. The bell rang at the count of 5, and London got up and walked to his corner. Now we'll watch them work on him. The count got to 5 as his knee came off the canvas, right a foot or two away from us here in the ring apron. Now we're looking directly at London's corner. They gave him some smelling sauce, and they have the ice bag on his head. But apparently because he got up and walked under his own steam, the doctor is not being called in the ring to check him. First knockdown of the fight. Now we're coming up for round 11, sorry. Around 11.
Now we go for Harris.
Well, a lot of people will be comparing London's number of rounds that he lasted with the champion with Archie Moore, who lasted 5. He's now passed Hurricane Jackson's total. Those body shots. He is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The fight is over. The fight is over in round 11 with a full count of 10. A very dramatic shot here now. Let's see what they're doing to London, because the champion is leaning over to see what he can do, and now he's been pulled back up on his feet upright. Florio on the left and Customato, the white-haired manager of the champion. They finally got London to his feet. And the crowd here is giving him a big hand. He took a terrific clobbering. Never had a chance. Never looked like he was even going to come close to hurting the champion, and the champion hurt him steadily with body blows.
Ladies and gentlemen, a KO in 51 seconds of the 11th round. The winner and still heavyweight champion of the world, Floyd Patterson.
And now into the ring, and Don Dumphy, champion Floyd Patterson. And just as soon as he's ready, come on in, Don.
Patterson, the heavyweight champion of the world, who has just defended his title by knocking out Brian London here in Indianapolis. Congratulations, Floyd.
Thank you.
Do you think, I get the impression that this was one of your toughest fights as far as giving out punishment and failing to get the man down? How do you feel about that?
Well, this man was a very, very tough fighter. I don't think I've ever fought anyone quite as tough outside of Dick Wagner and Hurricane Jackson. But this man took everything I had to offer and still stood on his feet. I think even though he might have lost tonight, he might have won as far as his country is concerned, because I think he is very, very game, and he is to be congratulated for that, if nothing else.
Well, Floyd, that's awfully nice of you, and I guess that's about what everybody feels. Did he hurt you at any time?
Well, I didn't get hurt, but I imagine if I would have been a more stationary target, I probably would have gotten hurt several times.
Oh, one more question, Floyd. I know you're a little wary from the punching. How do you feel you were tonight? Were you sharp as compared with the Harris fight?
Well, I was a little better. Of course, I still have a long way to go. There were still opportunities there tonight that I failed to take advantage of, but I'm a little better than I was when I fought Harris, and I guess by the time I fight Johansson, I'll probably be even sharper.
Thank you very much, Floyd Patterson. Good luck, and continued good luck. And now here's Customato, the manager of the heavyweight champion. Cus, I'd like you to come over to our NBC radio and cameras and tell us what you thought about the fight.
I thought that this fellow was up against just too much speed, but he's a dead game fella, and I think if he trained in the United States under American tutoring for 6 months, he'll run most of these fighters out of the ring.
Well, Cus, what do you think about Patterson tonight?
I thought Floyd was twice as good a fighter as he was with Harris. I believe that he'll be a better fighter even next time.
Were you satisfied with his weight? He was a little bit light, wasn't he? 182 and a fraction?
I'm never concerned with his weight as long as Patterson feels good. He had speed, he had power, but this guy had extraordinary gameness and ability to assimilate punishment.
Well, there's no question about it. Well, Cuss, good luck to you and congratulations.
Thank you very
I thought it was a good fight from your standpoint.
Thank you
very much. I'd like to go over and see if I could get Brian London over to our NBC microphone. Both boys are posing for pictures out here in the center of the ring. Brian, come on over to our NBC microphones and cameras. And how do you feel, Brian?
Well, I feel proud to have fought Floyd Patterson for the World Heavyweight title. And I think, personally, in my own opinion, I am quite in my senses now that Floyd Patterson is the fastest thing on 2 feet.
He was awfully fast tonight, wasn't he?
He is the fastest thing on 2 feet. I was hoping when I fought him that he may have had a bad night, but boy, if that's a bad night, he can sure go.
Well, Brian, you didn't seem to put on an offensive yourself throughout the fight. Were you kept busy defending yourself?
Yeah, more or less, you know. You seen the fight, didn't you?
I sure did. Well, thank you very much, and good luck, and you put on a game effort. You're worthy of your country.
6 more months and he'll be all right.
All right, Nick. Thank you very much. And now back to ringside.
Okay. Well, in round 10, there was a knockdown, the first knockdown of the fight for 5 seconds. In round 11, London was knocked out in 51 seconds of round 11. And, of course, Floyd Patterson did look much better than he did in his previous fights. And Customato summed it up pretty neatly. He intends to improve, and it should be a terrific fight when he meets Johansson. Remember, fans, every Friday night is fight night on the Gillette Cavalcade of Sports. Well, we repeat, Floyd Patterson knocked out Brian London in 51 seconds of round 11. He knocked his man down in round 10 for a count of 5, and London was saved by the bell. London put up a very gallant display of absorbing punishment. He didn't mount any offensives himself to speak of. He was busy defending himself from shots to the head and the body. Patterson came out in the first round, looked as if he wanted to end it by a terrific offensive in the first 2 or 3 minutes. Then he began to box more, experiment with various styles, fighting from a crouch. He was using his left hook a lot. He tried some of his specialties, those flying punches in which he leaps forward with his body at the same time winging a wide left or a wide right to London. London, of course, took a terrific beating about the body, and that was the eventual cause of his knockout because he seemed to just collapse all in a heap. He sank forward slowly on one knee near the end of round 10, and when the count went to 5, he got up and sort of walked on rubbery knees over to his corner. Then he came out for round 11, and you could see that he had nothing left. He had just run out of gas. There were no great cuts or anything. He had a few bumps around his cheekbones. Patterson was unmarked, looked sharp, looked much better than he had in any of his previous fights since the time he knocked out Archie Moore in 5 rounds. So the championship is safe. The tune-up bout is under his belt. And the Patterson and his manager, Customato, now seem to feel that they've accomplished their purpose. They gave their man 11 rounds with the title at stake, and it was an excellent tune-up as far as the champion was concerned because the main objective was to sharpen him for the defense of his title in June. Next Friday, from the War Memorial Auditorium in Syracuse, New York, with Norman Rothschild promoting, Gillette will present a 10-round welterweight bout between Gaspar Ortega and Rudell Stitch. The last time they fought on the Gillette Cavalcade of Sports, it was a split decision, and of course the margin of victory was 1 point. Our associate director tonight, Bob Andrus. Our technical director, John Guyan. Directed by Jack Dillon. Be sure to stay tuned immediately following the fight next Friday night for Jackpot Bowling with Bud Palmer. And remember, tomorrow afternoon, over another network in the United States and over the CBC television network in Canada, Gillette presents the 85th running of the Kentucky Derby direct from Churchill Downs in Louisville. This is Jimmy Powers saying smooth sailing, smooth shaving, and good night for the Gillette Safety Razor Company.